Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In this video I will show you 3 super quick recipes. You can actually make them in 15 minutes. If you want to eat wholesome plant-based dinner meals, but you're the person that are stressed when you come home from work, this is the video for you. Okay, so for the plant-based creamy delicious pesto pasta, these are the ingredients we're gonna need. So the base is actually butter beans. So instead of cashew nuts, as you have probably seen me use a lot of times in creamy sauces, we're gonna use beans instead. Then of course some basil, some pine nuts, nutritional yeast. You can find nutritional yeast in most health stores or health sections. And then we have whole wheat pasta. You can use gluten-free pasta if you like. And then we have some lemon juice, onion powder and salt, garlic clove. And then we have plant milk, which is Sprout. This is pea milk, which leads me into that Sprout is today's sponsor. So Sprout is sponsoring today's video. And this milk is the unsweetened version, which actually just launched in Sweden and is available in the US and Canada and in some countries in Europe as well. I can leave a link down below so you can see where you can find them. So when you choose a plant milk for cooking, I love using Sprout because Sprout is the most neutral tasting plant milk of them all, and it's super creamy, so it fits perfectly in savory dishes just like this one. So if you haven't tried Sprout yet, I highly recommend you to do so because it is delicious. So first step in this recipe, we're gonna preheat the pasta water, and while that is heating up, we're gonna toast the pine nuts. I roast my pine nuts on high heat, and you roast them until you see that they are starting to become slightly golden, and then you put the pan away and let them cool down. While the pasta is cooking, start by rinsing the butter beans. Then add in the butter beans to the blender and the rest of the ingredients. So I'm gonna destroy this poor basil. And then 2 tablespoons of lemon juice and 1 teaspoon of sea salt, 1 teaspoon of onion powder and 1 garlic clove. And then 2 tablespoons of nutritional yeast and then about a half a cup of plant milk. By this time the pine nuts will have been cooled down, so now we're just gonna add these in. You can add in raw pine nuts, but I think by roasting them you add such a nice flavor to it. So now we're just gonna blend this up until it becomes smooth and creamy. And pasta is done. So we drain the pasta and transfer the pasta back into the pot. And now we're just gonna add in the sauce. You can heat this up again, but it's not necessary. Now we're just gonna stir this together as it's combined. You can leave it like this with just the sauce, or you can, as I like to do, add in some either spinach or arugula and give it a stir. And now it's just time to serve it in a bowl or a plate. The smell of this is just so yummy, and I think that by toasting the pine nuts you get such an amazing flavor. I like having some vegan parmesan. This recipe is in my recipe app, the 5-Stick Health app, and it's really quick to make. You can just make like a big batch and have it in your fridge and it will keep for weeks. So a little sprinkle. Then I also like topping it with some fresh tomatoes. There we have it. So if you're looking for a creamy pasta dish which has less fats in it, to use beans in a sauce is an excellent way to have creamy pasta sauces that are highly nutritious. So for recipe number 2, I'm gonna make a tofu aubergine wok, and this is one of Pontus' favorites actually, so I'm very happy to show you this one. And it's very easy, anyone can make it. So here are the main ingredients we're gonna use. Tofu block, about 100 grams, and I'm gonna use a half of this aubergine, a cup of broccoli florets, I'm using frozen, and a half bell pepper, a quarter cup of cashew nuts, a tablespoon of ginger, and 2 garlic cloves. And then I'm also going to use some whole wheat noodles. First step is that we're gonna preheat the water for noodles. While the water is heating up, we are gonna pre-cut the veggies. And I really like cutting everything in advance before you cook. That way everything goes much smoother. So I just added the noodles into the pot and I set the timer on 4 minutes. And while the noodles are cooking, I'm gonna make the sauce. I'll be starting with a half a cup of water, which I have already poured down. I have 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, or you can use tamari sauce, 1.5 tablespoons of maple syrup, and 1 tablespoon of cornstarch. And stir this up. You can use any other starch such as arrowroot starch or tapioca starch if you don't like cornstarch. And if you think it's complicated to follow me along while cooking this, you can always find the recipe in my recipe app Physic Health, and there you will have all of the instructions how to make it the most efficient way. Okay, so now the sauce is ready. I'm gonna start cooking the tofu and then do the rest. And you want to cook these until they have a little bit of a brown color on them. If you don't want to use oil in your cooking, you can definitely do this without oil. You just skip this step and you add the tofu in the same time as you add all the other veggies, and you don't need to use any oil at all. I'm using oil because I think it gives a nice crispy feeling. And by this time the noodles are done, so we're gonna drain them. And we're just gonna let them sit here until the rest of the meal is ready. So now the tofu are done and we're gonna set these aside for a moment because we don't want to crowd the pan. And now we're just gonna add in all of these veggies, starting with the ginger and garlic. So cook these on medium to high heat until the aubergine is starting to get a little bit soft. It takes about a couple of minutes, and as the pan gets drier, you can just add a few splashes of water to deglaze the pan. So when the veggies are done, we're gonna add back the tofu cubes. Give that a stir, and then we're adding the sauce. And since there is starch in the sauce, this will thicken as it gets warmer. So you just want it to start simmer a bit, and when you see that the sauce is starting to thicken, you can turn off the heat and serve immediately onto the noodles. I'm quite pleased with this, so I'm gonna turn off the heat and serve. I'm gonna top this off with some spring onion, and that looks amazing. Oh. That is just so good. I can understand why this is Pontus' favorite. It is pretty damn good. So, Tempeh Tacos. This recipe is really simple. You're basically just cooking the tempeh. The rest is just toppings. So we're gonna start with the tempeh marinade. which is a 1/4 cup of soy sauce, or you can use tamari if you're gluten-free. And then 1 tablespoon of maple syrup, and then 1 teaspoon of garlic powder and 1 teaspoon of ginger powder, and 2 tablespoons of water. And then we're gonna slice the tempeh into slices. And tempeh is such a great meat substitute because it's so high in both protein, in iron, in lots of vitamins and mineral. And tempeh is actually already fermented, so it's actually easier for your digestion if you have sensitive digestion. Tempeh is great. So now we're gonna add the slices into the container. You can basically just throw them in here because we're gonna shake the container. Wrong lid. Give that a shake and set the timer for 5 minutes and let it marinate for 5 minutes while we prep the toppings. This recipe is also in the 5 Health app, and you can change the toppings if you like. The flavor on the marinade is so versatile, so like any flavor works. So first I'm gonna prep the dressing, and the dressing is just coconut yogurt with some lime. This lime presser, by the way, is a game changer. If you can't find coconut yogurt, and by the way I'm using unsweetened coconut yogurt, but if you can't find it, you can use regular unflavored and unsweetened vegan yogurt. And done. And then I also have some corn as topping, but I'm gonna set that aside. And cucumber. So I'm gonna slice the cucumber in triangles. And then we have some red cabbage, or this one is actually purple. And then my favorite herb of them all, coriander, or cilantro as some of you say. This situation, I actually saw on Ellen Fisher's YouTube channel that she did this with her fresh herbs and they would last longer. Mine actually looks worse than before, so obviously it doesn't work for my herbs, or I did something wrong, I don't know. But I'm gonna take a piece from this and chop it up. The toppings are prepped and we're gonna give the tempeh a final shake so that they get nice and juicy. Now we're gonna fry these in a pan. If you want to make them oil-free, you can just preheat the oven to about 180 degrees Celsius, but it takes a little bit longer, so I'm using my pan today because it goes quicker. Add some oil to a pan and heat the pan to medium to high heat. This is how I like mine, so let's flip them over and cook for another 1 or 2 minutes. And I forgot to mention before that you can absolutely use tofu instead if you don't like tempeh, or if you can't find tempeh. And if you can't find, if you want to try fresh tempeh, it's most common that Asian stores have fresh tempeh. Final step is to make the taco look bomb. So I've already prepped some tortillas. You can use whatever tortillas you like. I like start adding the sauce in the bottom because it just makes everything more juicy. There you have a perfect, I would say a perfect Friday night dinner recipe that is super quick to make and you can impress anyone with it. So I really hope you liked this video, and I really hope that you got some inspiration to cook something healthy even though you're stressed. All of these recipes you can find in my recipe app, the 5 Health app, I will leave a link down below. And also thank you Sprout for sponsoring this video. If you haven't tried out Sprout yet, I highly recommend you to do so, and I also leave the link down below so you can check them out. I see you in the next one.